I never thought that one fateful Halloween night could change the way I see the world. I still remember the chill in the air as I drove into our small town, its streets bathed in the cold, pale light of a crescent moon. The isolated home I had just moved into stood silently at the edge of town, a relic of forgotten dreams tucked away among gnarled trees and crumbling stone walls. I had heard whispers about this house, tales of inexplicable happenings, murmurings that defied logic. But nothing prepared me for the unnerving experiences that would follow that night. It began with an unsettling stillness that blanketed the neighborhood. I had arrived just past dusk, and the sky was a deep indigo, stretching out like an endless void. In the fading light, shadows stretched and intertwined with the old building's facade, creating images of distorted shapes that flickered with every passing cloud. I stepped out of my car, drawn by an inexplicable urge to explore the front yard. The air carried an almost tangible weight, as if the night was concealing more than it revealed. I unlocked the creaking gate and walked up the gravel path, each step echoing on the ground as though awakening something ancient and dormant. The door to the house, slightly ajar, invited me inside with a slow, almost imperceptible groan. It was a deal with the unknown, a quiet promise that the secrets within were not meant for the faint-hearted. The lamps in the living room were unlit, and the only sound was the soft rhythm of my footsteps accompanied by a distant, irregular tapping that seemed to originate from the depths of the house. In that tentative moment of solitude, I recalled strange tales I had heard over the years, stories like that of Elisa Lamb, discovered in the eerie confines of a water tank atop the Cecil Hotel, a name that still sent shivers down the spines of those familiar with the case. I had also read about Danielle Harkins and the terrifying rituals that bordered on psychological manipulation. These weren't merely urban legends. They were unsettling reminders of what could lurk in the hidden corners of our lives. As I continued my exploration, I could almost feel the ghostly touch of these stories, mingling with my own experiences. The first few minutes inside the house were deceptively calm. I walked through a narrow corridor lined with faded photographs of previous inhabitants whose eyes seemed to follow my every move. The interior was a blend of modern renovations and archaic details that stirred feelings of both comfort and unease. It was as if the building itself was struggling to reconcile its past with its present. I settled in the parlor, turning on a few lights in an attempt to banish the creeping shadows. But the darkness was persistent, clinging to every corner even when artificial light bathed the room. As midnight approached, I found myself drawn to the backyard. The wind whispered secrets amid the brittle leaves, and an inexplicable feeling of being watched crept over me. I noted that the lawn was overgrown, almost as if nature had conspired to hide any signs of what once was. It was there, amidst tangled vines and overgrown shrubs, that I noticed an old wooden bench, its surface marked with strange symbols that I couldn't decipher. The etchings bore a haunting resemblance to those linked to ancient rituals, evoking images of Pennsylvania Dutch magic and animal sacrifices. A stark reminder of the curious case, where a family discovered carcasses hidden beneath layers of time and tradition. There was something surreal about that night, like walking through a living story crafted by unseen hands. I began documenting every peculiar occurrence, not out of fear but a desperate need to understand. Every corner of the old house held a secret. Every whisper of the wind seemed to carry a challenge. I recorded the subtle creaks of the floorboards that rose and fell in an irregular rhythm. The gentle tapping that would start and stop as though it were searching for meaning. It wasn't long before the mundane details of everyday life twisted into a narrative of spectral horror. The turning point came shortly after I settled in for the night. I had barely managed to prepare a single cup of lukewarm coffee when I started to notice a series of eerie coincidences. At first, it was just a strange draft that swept through the corridors without any identifiable source. Then, the sound of footsteps echoed outside my door, so light and fleeting that I questioned my own sanity. I told myself it was merely the wind in my imagination. Yet a cold shudder crawled up my spine each time those footsteps receded into silence. I decided to retrace my steps, heading back to the living room, only to be met with an inexplicable chill that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. A reflection caught my eye in a tarnished mirror, a fleeting glimpse of a figure just behind me. My heart pounded as I spun around, only to find an empty corridor bathed in a dull, flickering light. The tension built slowly, like the tightening of a noose, each quiet moment laced with an expectancy that made my skin crawl. In that almost muted silence, every ordinary sound was amplified into something sinister. The night deepened, and so too did the mystery. I began noticing patterns within the chaos. Doors that were securely locked would sometimes be open, as if inviting an unseen visitor. Objects moved from their places without explanation, and faint, unplaceable murmurs echoed in the distance. I felt increasingly isolated, trapped in a setting where the boundary between reality and nightmare blurred. It was as if the house was mourning, reliving old tragedies and secrets that were never meant to resurface. Walking back through the corridors now felt like wandering through a labyrinth of memories, each turn revealing a fresh wave of disquiet. The once comforting familiarity of a small town was replaced by an uncanny sensation of displacement. I recalled tales reminiscent of the 2008 film, The Strangers, and the primal terror of being violated in the sanctity of one's home. It was a unique blend of raw fear and psychological torment. I was alone, yet not alone, engulfed by a presence that both captivated and repelled me with equal ferocity. Every minute felt heavier than the last, every shadow a harbinger of something ominous. In my restless state, I took to documenting everything with meticulous detail, a habit forged from necessity when words failed to capture the overwhelming dread. I wrote about the peculiar way the wind seemed to whisper unintelligible phrases, about the sensation of never being truly alone, even in a house meant to be home. Each observation was a step deeper into a realm where time warped and logic dissolved into the inexplicable. Then, as if the night had orchestrated its own crescendo of horror, the most disturbing incident unfolded. I awoke in the dead of night to an overwhelming sound, a rhythmic pounding, almost like footsteps echoing on an unseen staircase. I sat up in bed, heart hammering, straining to distinguish sound from nightmare. That rhythmic sound grew louder, closer, as though it was coming from beneath the floor. I mustered the courage to rise, my pulse echoing in my ears as I followed the sound down the narrow staircase. The further I went, the stronger the sensation of being pulled into something far beyond my understanding. At the bottom of the stairs, the sound ceased abruptly, leaving behind a silence that spoke volumes. I found myself in a small, forgotten room hidden behind a false wall in the basement, a room that looked as if it hadn't been touched for decades. The dim light from a single, broken lamp barely illuminated the space, revealing old furniture draped in dusty sheets and walls stained with dark, ancient smudges. In that forgotten space, the air was thick, heavy with the weight of countless untold stories and unspeakable memories. It was then that I noticed something that defied logical explanation. A series of photographs scattered across a dusty table. They depicted unknown individuals whose faces were distorted by time and sorrow. In one of the pictures, a figure matched the fleeting silhouette I had seen in the mirror earlier, their eyes dense with a haunting plea. I could feel the oppressive presence of something watching me, as if those images were a window into the past, a desperate cry from souls trapped by the very essence of that home. I wondered if these were relics of tragedies or warnings left behind by previous occupants, perhaps a silent echo of the house's dark history. The deeper I ventured into the enigma of that basement, the more I felt an uncanny connection to real-life cases that had shocked the world. Cases like Henry McDaniel's encounter with a three-legged creature with glowing eyes in a small town, incidents that blurred the boundaries between myth and reality. It was a revelation so surreal it nearly broke my grip on sanity, I realized that this house was not merely a structure, but a repository for the unsettled, the unspoken horrors of our collective past. There was something profoundly disturbing in the knowledge that everyday spaces could harbor such malignant memories. Returning upstairs, I tried to convince myself that everything was a confluence of coincidences and overactive imagination. Yet as the hours waned, a series of inexplicable anomalies continued to punctuate the night. At one point, resting in the small kitchen with a cold cup of water, I noticed the temperature drop drastically, my breath visible in the air. The silence was broken by a fleeting flash of movement, a shadow darting across the room, too deliberate to be just the play of light. I was gripped by an unshakable feeling that I was on the brink of encountering something far darker than I had ever imagined. In an attempt to piece together these fragments of terror, I took to writing frantic notes, jotting down every startling detail. I reflected on how the mundane could twist into the macabre so effortlessly, like the tale of a teacher leading a twisted ritual in the isolation of a rural setting. I spent the remaining hours of that Halloween night in a suspended state of alertness, as if the house itself was holding its breath before a final, terrible exhalation. Every time I thought I had unraveled a piece of its mysterious puzzle, another layer revealed itself with even more perplexing and disturbing details. As morning began to break, I felt both numb and acutely aware of the heavy burden of what had transpired. I closed my eyes, the weight of the night settling in my bones. Even now, as I recount these events, I remain haunted by the echoes of that night. The experience left me with more questions than answers, an unyielding uncertainty that gnawed at the edges of my sanity. The house still stands in that small town, silently guarding its secrets, as if daring those who visit it to uncover the full extent of its dark legacy. The psychological horror of that night was not in screams or gore, but in the slow, insidious realization that the everyday and the monstrous are intertwined in inexplicable ways. Like the unsettling accounts of those who have encountered inexplicable phenomena, be it a strange, three-legged creature or the remnants of forgotten rituals, the true terror lies in the possibility that our surroundings may harbor the inexplicable. That chilling truth compels me to examine everything with a wary eye. In the quiet moments of solitude that follow a traumatic revelation, I still hear the soft, echoing tap of footsteps in the hallway, the whisper of distant voices that speak of secrets too heavy to be forgotten. I share this story not only as a recounting of personal torment, but as an invitation to explore the unknown parts of our own lives. It is a reminder that sometimes what we dismiss as mundane can conceal a darkness that defies logic. That quiet tension when you think you're alone, the brief flash of something moving in a reflection, are all threads in a vast tapestry of unexplainable phenomena. In the end, I never discovered all the answers, nor did I fully comprehend the nature of the presence that haunted me that night. The haunting remains unresolved, an enigma that lingers in the spaces between memory and reality. The isolated home, with its blend of modern comfort and ancient mystery, continues to whisper of untold stories and unfinished business. I walk away from that experience forever marked by the realization that truth and terror are often two sides of the same coin. If you find yourself questioning the safety of your own surroundings, remember this story, a reminder that sometimes the real horror is not in the obvious, but in the silent, unseen details of our daily lives. Delve into these chilling true stories that blur the lines between reality and the supernatural, leaving you questioning the safety of your own surroundings.